What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to the video. Today, I'll be doing my updated 2025 NASCAR Cup Series silly season predictions. I'm going to go through all the full-time entries and the part-time entries for 2025. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start talking about the 00 car for Haas factory team. Yes, Gene Haas is still going to be around in NASCAR next year and will keep one of the two Haas racing charters with them shutting down. Joe Custer is going to run this operation, and they will have one Cup Series team in 2024. My prediction is going to be the 00. Who is going to be the driver, however? My pick is Cole Custer for this ride. Cole Custer is son of Joe Custer. There's been chatter that Cole Custer is going to move up to the Cup Series in 2025. I think Cole Custer will end up being the driver. He's had a very solid year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I think he's going to be full-time in the Cup Series for the first time since 2022. I have Cole Custer driving a 00 car in 2025. Up next, how about the one car for Trackhouse Racing? There'll be no changes to this car as Rothstein has a long-term contract with Trackhouse Racing. He also has a lot of sponsorship and funding and has been very solid with Trackhouse Racing over the course of the last couple of years. He's been a championship contender last year as well. He's probably not going to be one this year. Rothstein's very solid, and I expect it to be a threat for wins going forward and will stay in the one car once again in the 2025 NASCAR Cup season. Up next, how about the 2 car for Team Penske? There won't be any changes as Hendrick will continue to drive the 2 car in 2025. There have been some talk and chatter early in the year about him maybe losing his seat, but with Hendrick winning a Gateway a couple weeks ago, he will stick around in the 2 car next year. Look, Hendrick is a very solid race car driver. Well, not a solid driver in my opinion, but he has had some very solid performances at times, and he's hopefully going to improve with this car going forward. Hoping to get better and do better with the Penske group going forward, as we'll say in the 2 car next season. Up next, how about the 3 car for Richard Childress Racing? There's not expected to be any change to the 3 car 2025 as Austin Dillon confirmed this past week that he has 2 more years he'll be driving a 3 car for Richard Childress Racing. There was some talk about Noah Gragson taking this seat, but Austin Dillon is committed to helping RCR get better. Unfortunately, Austin Dillon has struggled the last couple years, and I really don't know if Austin Dillon is going to be able to help RCR get better, but it'll be looking to do that. It'll be looking to try to make RCR a better organization going forward into the foreseeable future. Up next, how about the 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Kyle Larson, who has a contract through 2026. And I also expect that Kyle Larson is going to get another contract extension sometime in early 2025. Kyle Larson's been doing a really solid job with Hendrick over the last couple of years. In fact, I think he's been the best driver in the Cup Series in recent seasons. He's looking for a second championship in 2024. And I think if he doesn't win the championship this year, he certainly has a chance to get it done next year. He'll stay in the 5 car in 2025. Up next, how about the 6 car for RFK Racing? There won't be any changes in 2025 as Brad Keselowski will stay in the 6 car next season. Brad Keselowski is getting to the latter stages of his career, but it seems like over the last couple of years, Brad Keselowski has been improving again. He's already won a race this season. He brings sponsorship funding to the table, and he's been really helping RFK grow as an organization over the course of the last couple of years. There won't be any changes. He'll stay in the 6 car in 2025. Up next, how about the 7 car for Spire Motorsports? There won't be any changes in 2025 as Corey LaJoie has a contract with Spire Motorsports through 2025. Now, he could be a free agent at the end of next year, but I would not be surprised if Spire Motorsports keeps him around long term. While Corey LaJoie has been struggling over recent seasons, Corey is still a decent race car driver. I think he will improve slowly but surely. He'll be looking to get better and really help Spire Motorsports get better, though I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that going forward. Up next, how about the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing? This was confirmed a couple weeks ago that Kyle Busch is going to stick around in the 8 car in 2025. Now, 2025 is an option, but many are expecting that Kyle Busch is going to stay in his car in 2025 and also in 2026. Look, Kyle Busch, I know, has struggled in the last year and a half or so, but I feel like this number 8 team is starting to get better. The last couple weeks, they've shown pace or speed. Kyle's also committed, and he's committed to really helping RCR grow forward. He'll stay in the 8 car next season. Up next, how about the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This will once again be driven by Chase Elliott in 2025. He has a contract through 2027. Chase Elliott's been very, very solid with Hendrick this year. He only had his first finish outside the top 20 very recently. He's been very consistent, and he's got a good chance and opportunity to win his second championship in 2024. If he doesn't get it done this year, I think he's got a really good chance and opportunity to win it in the 2025 NASCAR Cup season. Up next, how about the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? There won't be any changes in 2025 as Denny Hamlin is going to be driving this car once again. Now, Denny Hamlin has a contract through the end of next year, so he technically could be a free agent or could just retire at the end of next year. But I do think Denny Hamlin is going to stick around for at least another year, potentially in 2026. Denny's still been very solid, is at the top of his game. I expect him to stick around and continue driving the number 11 car, at least for the foreseeable future. Up next, how about the 12th car for Team Penske? There won't be any changes in 2025 as Ryan Blaney will have a long-term contract with Team Penske. He just won a championship last year, and Ryan Blaney is still very solid at this point, has been improving as the year has progressed and has gone on. I think Ryan Blaney is only going to get better as a race car driver. I don't think he's going to get worse. I think Ryan Blaney will get better and will be looking to once again win his second straight championship in 2024 as well, maybe in 2025. Up next, out the 13 car for Kaulig Racing. Yes, I think Kaulig Racing is going to have a 3-car organization with this 3rd car being a part-time entry. I think it'll be split between Christian Eckes potentially and AJ Allmendinger and maybe even Daniel Hemrick as well. I think Allmendinger will drive a majority seats in the seat, and I do think that Christian Eckes have a chance to get behind the wheel, but I think Kaulig will run a 3rd part-time entry next season. Up next, how about the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing? Yes, I think Rick Ware Racing is still going to have 2 entries in 2025, with the 15 car being a multitude of drivers behind the wheel. I think Casgirl is going to make select starts in this seat. I think Ryan Preece also makes select starts. I think he'll be in Xfinity next year, but I do think he'll make select starts in Cup next year. I think Harrison Burton also makes select starts in this car, and I think somehow, shockingly, Haley Deegan also will get a chance and opportunity to get behind the wheel of this car going into next year. I think that'll be the rotation, and they'll have multiple drivers in this car in 2025. Up next, how about the 16 car for Kaulig Racing? This car, like the 13 car, will be a rotation seat between 2 drivers. I think it's going to be split between AJ Allmendinger and Daniel Hemrick, with Daniel Hemrick getting a majority of seats in this ride. Daniel Hemrick, I don't think will be full-time next year, despite the fact he does have a couple top 10s so far. I think Daniel Hemrick is going to get demoted to being back in the Xfinity Series next season, with Josh Williams struggling quite a bit. I think that we'll see the seat split with Allmendinger making select starts as well, but Daniel Hemrick also running part-time in this entry. Up next, how about the 17 car for RFK Racing? This is already confirmed as Chris Buescher recently confirmed a multi-year extension with RFK Racing. Chris Buescher's been really solid with RFK Racing over the course of the last couple of seasons, and he always gets the best out of equipment. I expect that to continue in 2025. He's looking to get the championship this year in 2025. He'll once again stick around and continue driving the number 17 car once again in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. Up next, how about the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This was finally officially confirmed about a week or 2 ago, as Chase Briscoe will officially join Joe Gibbs Racing in 2025 and will replace Martin Truex Jr. going into next season. Chase Briscoe is not bringing any sponsorship funding to the table, maybe a little bit from a Hendrick, but he will have Bassler Shops as a sponsor for majority races next year, with James Small as the crew chief. Chase Briscoe looked to break out going into 2025, and I think I'll have a great chance and opportunity to do that going into the 2025 season. Up next, how about the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This is already confirmed as Cristobal has a long-term contract with Joe Gibbs Racing. Over the last year or so, Cristobal has continued to get a lot better, and I think he's only going to get better as a driver. He gets better usually in the second half of these years. He's only 1 win away from getting that 10th Cup Series win. Cristobal's been a really solid driver the last year, and I think he's got a good chance to win the championship. He'll once again, though, stick around in the 20 car next year. Up next, how about the 21 car for the Wood Brothers? It was announced earlier this week that Josh Berry will officially join the Wood Brothers and will replace Harrison Burton going into 2025. It's unclear who the crew chief is going to be for Josh Berry, but it could potentially see Rodney Charles come into play and be the crew chief for Josh Berry going into 2025. Josh Berry's been a very solid driver over recent years. He was really good this year in Cup with the Ford team. He still has a chance to make the playoffs this year. He'll be looking to do really good with the Wood Brothers and bring that team back to their glorious form. Up next, up the 22 car for Team Penske. This is already confirmed as Joey Logano has a long-term contract with Team Penske. Joey Logano also just most recently won a National Super Speedway a couple weekends ago, and I think that Joey Logano could have a chance and an opportunity to get his third NASCAR Cup Series title and be the first driver currently in Cup that has 3 championships of active drivers. Joey Logano looks to get better. He'll be looking to improve and look to do a lot of great things with the Team Penske group going forward into the near future. Up next, how about the 23 car for 2311 Racing? While it's not been officially announced, it's expected that Bubba Wallace is going to continue driving a 23 car in 2025. Bubba Wallace has been a playoff contender the last couple of years. He brings sponsorship funding to the table. That's a big reason why they got him at that team. Bubba's been a very solid driver in recent seasons. There won't be any changes going into next year. He will stick around and continue driving a 23 car in 2025. Up next, how about the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This is already confirmed as William Byron is going to stay in the 24 car next season. Now, William Byron is technically under contract through next year, but recently Valvoline signed an extension through 2029 with Hendrick, so I think William Byron is probably good at least through 2029. He's still winning as driver in the next-gen era, and I think that's going to continue going forward. He's looking to continue to improve. He'll stick around in the 24 car once again in 2025. Up next, how about the 31 car for Kaulig Racing? There will be changes to the seat in 2025 as Zane Smith will move away from the Trackhouse Racing family a little bit, but will get loaned out to Kaulig Racing and drive the 31 seat next year. That's my prediction. I think Zane Smith goes over here next year. He brings sponsorship and funding with him, and Zane Smith I still think is a very solid driver. With the rumors of SVG getting the third full-time Trackhouse seat, I think they make the decision to go ahead and put Zane Smith behind the wheel. I think he drives the 31 car for Kaulig Racing going into 2025. Up next, how about the 33 car for Richard Childress Racing? There have been rumors of them having 3 full-time entries next year, but they're only going to have a third part-time entry next season as they're only going to have 2 full-time teams. I think this will be a rotation seat between Austin Hill, Jesse Love, Will Brown, and Brody Kosecki. Austin will make a majority starts in the seat. Jesse will make his NASCAR Cup Series debut next year. Will Brown will make a couple road course starts, and I think that you'll see Brody Kosecki make a few starts as this race car will run about a third to maybe half the schedule next year. I think they run this car once again in 2025. Up next, how about the 34 car for Front Row Motorsports? There will be changes to the seat in 2025 as Michael McDowell will be going over to Spire Motorsports in the 2025 season. So who's going to take over the 34 car next year? I think it will end up being Noah Gragson. Noah Gragson is a front runner to go to the Front Row Motorsports next year and take over the 34 car. Plus, Luss is expected to stick around, so Noah Gragson isn't going to have to bring much sponsorship, but there will be sponsorship over at that team next season. Noah Gragson's been a very solid driver this year with Haas Racing. I do expect that to continue going into next year. I think Noah Gragson will once again stick around in Cup and drive a 34 car next season. Up next, how about the 36 car for Front Row Motorsports? Yes, it was confirmed recently that Front Row Motorsports has bought one of the SHR charters and will expand to a 3-car organization going into 2025. So who's going to end up driving the seat? Well, currently it's between Sam Mayer and Christian Eckes on who's going to get this ride next year. And I think it's going to end up being Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer has been the front runner for this seat very recently. He's been doing a really good job in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and there's not really a lot of good Chevy rides that are currently opened up for Cup next year. So I think going into 2025, I think Sam Mayer is going to end up being the driver that takes the seat. I think Sam Mayer will be the driver of the 36 car going into next season. Up next, how about the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports? There won't be any changes going to 2025 as Todd Gillen will be taking over the seat once again next year as he most recently signed a multi-year extension with Front Row Motorsports. Todd's been doing a really good job. I think he's had like 9 or 10 straight top 20 finishes. He's becoming a really big standout. His move inside the top 20 in the regular season standings. He's going to stick around. He's got great sponsorship and funding with him. Todd Gillen will once again continue driving the 38 car once again in 2025. Up next, how about the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club? There won't be any changes in 2025 as John Hunter Nemechek is going to stick around and continue driving for Legacy Motor Club next season. John Hunter Nemechek has been doing an okay job this year, but hasn't done absolutely spectacular. That being said, we know that they really like him. Legacy's been a big fan. He took over for Noah Gragson going into this year. I don't think anything changes going to next year. John Hunter once again drive the number 42 car in 2025. Up next, how about the 43 car for Legacy Motor Club? While it's not been officially confirmed, I do expect that Erik Jones is going to stay in the 43 car once again in 2025. There were rumors about Corey Hamm potentially getting the seat if Erik Jones did not return, but I do expect that Erik Jones is going to sign an extension with the Legacy Motor Club organization, and I think he sticks around and will once again continue driving the 43 car. He's got sponsorship with him. They also got good sponsors with them as well. He'll stick around in the 43 car in 2025. Up next, how about the 44 car for NY Racing? Yes, I think NY Racing is going to be back on the track in 2025, and I think it'll be part-time with JJ Yeley. JJ Yeley does have a little bit of funding. We got Ollie sponsoring this weekend at Pocono. I think JJ Yeley will continue being the driver. Maybe Matt DiBenedetto could be a sleeper pick for this seat, but I do think that JJ Yeley will once again be the driver of this car in 2025. Up next, how about the 45 car for 2311 Racing? This is already confirmed as Tyler Reddick has a multi-year contract with 2311 Racing. It's mainly a long-term extension, actually. Tyler Reddick's been the star of 2311 Racing in recent years, has been the best of the team, third in the standings at the moment, is a championship threatening contender. He's got help from Monster Energy, who's going to be with the team long-term. Tyler Reddick isn't going anywhere. He'll once again continue driving the 45 car in 2025. Up next, how about the 47 car for JTG Daugherty Racing? We know that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to stay in the 47 car in 2025. But the big question right now is who will the team ownership look like, because there's going to be a new ownership coming into the organization in 2025. Could Dale Jr. come into that? Could Kevin Harvick come in that? That could certainly be a possibility. But nonetheless, going into next year, there will be some ownership changes happening. We'll see Ricky Stenhouse Jr. though stay in the 47 car as he signed a 3-year extension recently. Up next, how about the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports? There won't be any changes next year as Alex Bowman is going to continue driving the 48 car in 2025. Alex Bowman has a contract through 2026, but many people think he should lose a seat. After winning this past weekend at Chicago, I don't think he's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. He's going to stick around in the 48 car going into 2025. He's done a really great job at Hendrick Motorsports the last couple years, and Ally is extremely committed. So we'll see Alex Bowman stay in the 45 car once again in 2025. Up next, how about the 50 car for Team Amer Racing? This is a team that I expect to come back in 2025, which of course is the former money team, and I think that Ty Dillon will likely end up being the driver of this seat for select races. Ty Dillon drove the 50 car at the Coca-Cola 600, and I think this will be split between him, and I think Jeffrey Earnhardt also makes select starts in this car in 2025. They'll be part-time, and they'll be back once again, I believe, in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. Up next, how about the 51 car for Ware Racing? While it's not been officially confirmed by the team itself, Justin Haley is expected to stick around in the 51 car in 2025. There have been rumors and speculation about him maybe leaving to go to a team like RFK Racing. With RFK not expanding, Justin Haley's going to stick in this seat. Look, Justin Haley's been doing a really good job with Rick Ware this season. He always gets the best out of equipment, always runs up front. I think he's done a fantastic job. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. He'll stick in the 51 car once again in the 2025 Cup season. Up next, how about the 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? There won't be any changes in 2025 as Ty Gibbs, of course, is a grandson of Joe Gibbs. Ty's also been doing a really good job having a fantastic sophomore season. Ty also has sponsorship from Monster, though they could potentially leave at the end of the year. There's been rumors about that recently. I don't think Ty Gibbs is going to be going anywhere anytime soon. He's going to stick around. He brings sponsorship with him and will stay in the 54 car in 2025. Up next, how about the 56 car for 2311 Racing? Yes, I think 2311 Racing is going to have a fourth part-time entry next year in 2025. I think he'll have a multitude of drivers. I think Martin Truex Jr., who's been rumored to be running the Daytona 500 next year, I think will be behind the wheel of this seat. I think Chandler Smith also makes some select Cup Series starts, same as Sheldon Creed as well. And if Carl Edwards-Curtis ever wanted to come out of retirement drive for the team, I would love to see them do that. But I think this seat will mainly be for Martin Truex Jr. and Chandler Smith next year. Maybe if Kamui Kobayashi Josh wants to come and race, he could end up doing it. But I do believe that you're going to see this 56 car part-time in 2025. Up next up with the 60 car for RFK Racing, the Sage 60 car. I think this car is going to be coming back in 2025, and I think it's going to have multiple drivers behind the wheel. I think Cam Waters is going to make select starts in the seat next year. I think Matt Benedetto is going to make select starts in this car as well. I think Haley Deegan might make starts with RFK Racing because Brad really likes her, and I also think potentially Joey Ham might get back behind the wheel of this seat, and maybe David Reagan as well. I think it comes back next year with multiple drivers in the 2025 year. Up next up with the 62 car for Beard Motorsports. Yes, I think Beard Motorsports is going to come back on a part-time basis next season. I think it'll be driven by two drivers, Parker Retzlaff and Anthony Alfredo. Parker will be making his Cup Series debut later this year at Daytona in about a month or so. I think you see Parker Retzlaff get back behind the wheel of the seat for a few races, and I think Anthony Alfredo, with how many he's ran this year with the team, I think he runs once again with the organization. Nonetheless, Beard Motorsports makes a comeback, and they do make a return in 2025. Up next up with the 66 car for NBM Motorsports. I think NBM Motorsports is going to be back on the track in Cup next year for more races than they've currently ran. I think Timmy Hill is going to run a majority of the races. I think Davis Starr might also get behind the wheel. And I do think that Josh Blicky is in the running to run part-time after running Chicago this weekend. I think he'll be back on the racetrack. They'll be looking to have great performances. And I do think that this team will be back once again on the racetrack in the 2025 calendar season. Up next, up with the 6-7 car for 2311 Racing. Yes, 2311 Racing is going to have 3 full-time entries in 2025, and I think there's 2 drivers in the running for the C. That is Corey Heim and Riley Herbst. Many believe that Riley Herbst is going to end up taking over the C because of the monster money, but I think Corey Heim also has a really good chance to get back behind the wheel. If Corey Heim doesn't go full-time, I think he drives part-time in a 56, but I think Riley Herbst also has a chance. I think right now it's a 2-headed horse race, and I think it'll either be Corey Heim or Riley Herbst who gets behind the wheel of this car in 2025. Up next, up with the 71 car for Spire Motorsports. There'll be a new driver behind the wheel of the 71 car going into next season, as Michael McDowell will be moving away from Farmer Motorsports at the end of this season and joining Spire Motorsports on a multi-year deal starting next year. It's unclear what sponsors are going to be with him going into 2025 and who the crew chief's going to be. Travis Peterson could potentially move over to be the crew chief with Michael McDowell going into next year. That probably will be announced here if it does end up happening. Michael McDowell is leaving a top-tier team to move to a little bit of a smaller team, but I do think he'll do better than what Zane Smith's done. We will see Michael McDowell once again join the team and drive the 71 car in 2025. Up next, up with the 77 car for Spire Motorsports. There won't be any changes in 2025 as Carson Osborne will be behind the wheel of the seat going into next season. Carson Osborne is rumored to be looking at some bigger teams going into next year, but Carson Osborne, after what happened in Nashville, might hurt his chances to get a better seat. I think Carson's done a solid job this year, but he's also made some pretty big mistakes as well on the racetrack. I think he will once again do great things with Spire, and he'll stick around with the Spire Motorsports organization going forward and stay in the 77 car next year. Up next, up with the 78 car for Live Fast Motorsports. I think Live Fast Motorsports is going to come back in 2025, and BJ McLeod is going to be the only driver behind the wheel. I think they're going to run the super speedways and maybe a couple one-off road courses as well. I think, like I said, they make a comeback next year, and I think BJ McLeod is the most likely candidate to get behind the wheel of the seat in 2025, considering he's the owner of this famed organization. Up next, how about the 84 car for Legacy Motor Club? Yes, I think Legacy Motor Club is going to have a third part-time entry once again in 2025. I think Jimmy Johnson is going to run his final NASCAR Cup Series races all together early in the season, and I think Sheldon Creed will end up making select starts in this seat as well next year. I think Sheldon's going to be full-time Xfinity, but I do think he makes select Cup starts, and I also think if Casey Mears ever want to come back, we may see him behind the wheel. Nonetheless, I think it'll be split between Jimmy Johnson and Sheldon Creed going into 2025. Up next, how about the 88 car for Junior Motorsports? Yes, I think Junior Motorsports is going to make some select Cup starts. I don't think they're going to be full-time, however. And I think there's only 2 drivers who will get behind the wheel. I think it's going to be Connor Zilic and Sammy Smith. Sammy Smith is expected to stick around and continue driving the 8-car next season with the sponsorship of Pipeline J.He brings. And Connor Zilisch is heavily rumored to be joining Junior Motorsports in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, taking over for Sam Mayer, who I predict will be going over to Front Row next season. I think they find a way to run part-time races, and I think they'll be on the track in 2025 on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule next year. Up next, top of the 91 car for Trackhouse Racing. This, of course, being the Project 91 entry. I think Trackhouse is bringing the Project 91 car back next season. My prediction is that Juan Montoya makes select starts in Cup. Yes, I think he makes a comeback. I think Connor Zilisch, along with his Junior Motorsports starts, and make select starts with Trackhouse Racing and be doing some Cup starts. And I think Marcus Ambrose also makes a pretty crazy comeback next year. We've seen wild comebacks in NASCAR. I think this team will come back, the Project 91 entry, and I think those will be the drivers that end up being behind the wheel. Up next, how about the 97 car for Trackhouse Racing? There will be a new driver in a third full-time Trackhouse entry in Cup next year. I predict that to be Shane Van Gisbergen. SVG has been expecting to move up to the Cup Series next year with the sponsorship he brings and how well he's been performing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series this year. I think he's done enough to make the move up next year. He's done a really good job, the most wins so far in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and there are a lot of road courses early in the year, and there might be more going early in the year next season. Like I said, expecting he moves up. I think Red Bull could work with him very heavily as well next year, but I do think that Shane Van Gisbergen will be full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2025. And finally, the last car we'll talk about is a 99 car for Trackhouse Racing. There won't be any changes next year as Daniel Suarez is expected to sign a multi-year contract extension with Trackhouse Racing. While the announcement hasn't happened and Daniel Suarez has struggled in recent years, I think he's going to go ahead and make the move to decide to stick around with Trackhouse Racing going into 2025. There were rumors of him going back to Kaulig at one point, but I think you're going to see Daniel Suarez continue driving the 99 car once again and look to get better. And trust me, if SVG there, I think he's going to have a good chance and opportunity to really help Daniel Suarez get better next year in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. So, those are my updated 2025 NASCAR Cup Series silly season predictions. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my Patreon as well. Link description below that, and comment your thoughts below on today's video. What are your 2025 NASCAR silly season predictions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. There might be a Truck Series race picks later today. If not, you'll see that tomorrow morning. There'll be a NASCAR news video tomorrow. There'll, of course, be the Xfinity Series race picks. Thursday will be Cup race picks for Pocono. Friday, we're going to have the Truck Series race review as well. And there's a lot of great content dropping on the channel over the course of the next couple weeks. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.